The National Two-House Council hosted its 11th conference in August 2017. The meeting was considered a great step forward for Guyana's indigenous people. Hosted under the theme, Good Governance, a Brighter Future for Guyana's First Peoples, the NTC recommitted to building partnerships and working together to address the issues of the indigenous people. In this week edition of Guyana 411, we take a look at how partnership with government is facilitating the achievement of a long-time goal of the NTC and reflect on the achievements and challenges of the organization in representing Guyana's first people. I am Sinika Thorne, and this is Guyana 411. Thank you for joining us. The Constitution of the National Two-House Council is enshrined in the Armenian Act of 2006. The semi-autonomous body is required by the Act to promote good governance in indigenous villages while protecting the indigenous culture and heritage. However, for the NTC to successfully achieve their lawful mandate, working together with the government and other partners is critical.
Guyana's more than 200 indigenous villages and communities are spread across some of the most remote locations of Guyana's hinterland. The installment of the NTC sought to bridge this divide and connect these communities to the main administrative centers.
The NTC really formed to listen to the indigenous people's concern and then work with the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs and the government to address those issues.
The issues that the NTC manages that affect indigenous communities are wide-ranging, from social to economic. Many of these are highlighted when the body meets at an annual conference.
It is quite a vast area for the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs to meet every village. That's very difficult. We can't be, although we go, we can't be there every month. And we believe that this is the best time to bring all the two shows together so that they could discuss issues amongst themselves. They would be able to have the opportunity to see and meet other ministers or other officials.
The NTC conference, however, is more than just a forum for the airing of issues affecting the lives of indigenous people. It provides the platform for networking and opportunities for new economic benefits for many indigenous communities.
More than that, it is to interact with the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs so that we could be able to have a better handle or a better plan of action for the relief of some of these issues that they complain about.
At this year's NTC conference, President David Granger pointed out that it is the state's responsibility to ensure that the improvement of the economic and social conditions of indigenous communities becomes a reality.
It was in an effort to propose solutions to the real problems facing the communities that I proposed a 10-point plan of action for hinterland development in my first address to this council on the 28th of August 2015. It was in an effort to propose solutions to the real problems facing the communities that I proposed the establishment of a 5-member National Indigenous Peoples Authority, NIPA, to ensure faster implementation of decisions of the NTC and other agencies.
The President noted that the government and the NTC are obligated to work together to improve the lives of indigenous people.
We must work together to improve the standard of education in terms of the 3 A's: access, attendance, and achievement, especially in the primary and secondary schools in our hinterland communities. Indigenous communities must not be left behind.
On the government's part, this partnership is also reflected in the Amerindian Development Fund, with its community development projects, which continue to impact positively on the sustainable livelihood of indigenous peoples across Guyana. The Hinterland Employment Youth Services, HAYS, program also continues to change lives, inspire hope, build personal and village economies, even as new projects such as the Paramakatoy Sun-Dried Tomato Project in Region 8 comes on stream.
Projects which have the blessing of the entire village population. This is the true spirit of self-determination and partnership. There is indeed much to celebrate and to build upon. The momentum trust must not be lost. The momentum must not be sacrificed on the altar of selfish or partisan political expedience. On the contrary, the momentum must be heightened and centered upon the best interest of all the indigenous peoples of Guyana.
Chairman of the NTC, Joel Fredericks, said that partnerships are integral to strengthening the NTC as it moves forward.
This administration, I must say that we have a working relationship, and this is what the NTC is looking for. To sit with government, lay the issues on the table, and let us find a solution to address it. And this administration has been supportive in addressing some of the issues.
A groundbreaking result of this partnership is the unveiling of the building plan for the establishment of a National Tushaus Council Secretariat. This infrastructure is considered an institutional pillar for the advancement of the work of the NTC in the good governance of indigenous communities.
The establishment of the NTC Secretariat is expected to facilitate more representation and development of the indigenous people from the 215 communities countrywide.
At last year's NTC conference, a request was made to President David Granger for the allotment of land for the establishment of an NTC Secretariat. In July 2017, the President approved the granting of a half-acre plot next to the Heritage Village at the Sophia Exhibition Center for the construction of this Secretariat. At the site of the sod-turning ceremony, the NTC chairman, Joel Fredericks, noted that this was a historic moment for indigenous people.
I am very honored and pleased, Mr. President, that you listened to our requests last year and you did act on it, your government. And the National Tushaus Council, we will work with your administration to make this NTC Secretariat a reality. Today, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
President David Granger noted that the Secretariat will be an institution for the promotion of good governance, of which the NTC is a part.
Governance is more complex in the indigenous communities. You have government at central government level, represented here by Prime Minister, Vice President, and Minister Norton. You have governments at the regional level, represented by the RDCs. That governance at the local level, represented by the municipalities and the neighborhoods. And you have government and governance at the household levels and the village levels. And of course, especially for the indigenous people, they have a special arrangement in which they are allowed to conduct their own local elections outside of the national electoral system. But the one institution that binds all of these together, the one institution that can speak to central government and the Ministry of Indigenous People Affairs, that can speak to regional democratic councils, that can speak to neighborhoods and municipalities, and that can speak to villages through the Tushaus, is the NTC.
Vice Chairman of the NTC and Tushau of St. Cuthbert's Mission, Lennox Schumann, said the government's commitment to the NTC has been exemplary. He added the Secretariat is a priority to the mission of the NTC.
It is only after that we have that permanent base that we could actually start doing the real work to changing all the things that we hope to change.
Many leaders of indigenous communities are ecstatic that a long-time dream is finally becoming a reality.
I'm more than happy after a long fight for this, I'm more than happy to know that a land is given. Now, this is a plus for us, and I know we're going to work when our secretariat is being built.
We're only having a gathering when the year comes and not a representation for us. So having a secretary is what we needed so we can have a representation where we can come there with our problems, we can sit down and talk, we can have some lawyer within us that could sit down and, tell us, well, if we're going wrong, where we give you some advice and go forward like that. We really need something like that. So right now I appreciate that a lot.
This is a very great move for the NTC because I served as an NTC executive some time back during my term of office, but those things were never materialized before. But now with the present government, I think this is a great step for the NTC.
More importantly, Minister Sidney Allicock says the NTC Secretariat will be an important linkage between Guyana's hinterland and its coastland.
I see this secretariat here as being the beginning of the unification of our peoples between the coast and the hinterland.
The advancement towards an NTC Secretariat has definitely made this year's NTC conference a historic one. But for many of the Tushaus who represented their communities at this year's event, the conference was considered a turning point for the NTC itself.
The NTC uses its annual conference as the drawing board to flesh out strategies and plans for the protection, conservation, and sustainable management of village lands and natural resources.
That the National Tushaus Conference was not a talk shop, it's a workshop. It is a forum for planning, it's a forum for problem solving, it's a platform for performance. It is a means to strengthen the administration, to advance the social and economic development of villages, and to provide good governance.
Over its lifespan, the NTC was challenged to adequately represent the indigenous people. Some of the Tushaus at this year's conference reviewed the NTC's performance over the years.
Having an NTC is worth it, where we come together as one with one voice.
The NTC as a representative body, because of resources, financial resources, to make outreach to the hinterland communities was not very effective. But I feel that with having a secretariat where you can have, then you know directly there's an office where villages can channel their complaints or their issues to. The NTC can become a very effective body.
This is my third NTC, attending the third NTC. The NTC addressing issues within communities. We find that there's little communication between the NTC and the wider spread communities within the far-flung areas. Reason being is because the body doesn't really visit communities to better understand what is happening within communities. I feel if the NTC interact more with communities, meet out to more communities, we can better solve our problems through the NTC and with the government.
The executive of the NTC acknowledged that it has been tested, but they are confident that things will change.
Before, the NTC was manipulated as a political tool. I know that. Where they were not allowed to speak out. The minister was the one who mostly controlled the NTC. But this time, we managed to break away from that control. This year, we managed to take full control of the agenda, the planning, and everything. What would be important for us is to actually be part of the budgeting of this thing.
This is my third NTC, and I would say that one of the key changes that we are looking forward to from this conference is the adoption of rules and procedures under the Section 41 of the Amerindian Act. I think this year's NTC conference is the turning point, not could be, it is the turning point for the NTC. As I'm sure your colleagues may have heard, we are trying to gather information from communities which we lack. We do not have an archive, we do not have a financial structure. We do not have a lot of things. But I think this year we have that opportunity to start down that path, get the right information so we can better direct programs, better provide support, and better administer, or hopefully support good governance.
This is the final year of the NTC's executive body. The executive is elected every 3 years. Minister Sidney Allicock charged the Indigenous leaders to unify their approach to decision-making and improve consultations with the wider Indigenous community.
I challenge you, therefore, to examine your own stewardship, identify your successes, confront your shortcomings, and work in the remaining months of the term to ensure that the legacy you leave will be celebrated by the generations to come. Remember that if we made no mistakes, it means that we were doing nothing. But if we make the same mistakes twice, then we learn nothing from the first one.
A unique feature of this year's National Two-Shows Council Conference is the hosting of an Indigeneity Conference. The first of its kind, the session facilitated discourse concerning food, practices, and well-being between Guyanese and Belizean indigenous peoples.
Food is crucial to the welfare of the indigenous people. However, challenges like climate change and policy direction are a threat to the sustainability of the indigenous way of life. On the final day of the NTC conference, Guyanese indigenous leaders learned how Belize's indigenous people, the Mayans, confronted the challenges to their well-being as First Peoples. Maya Leaders Alliance Program Coordinator Pablo Mace explained how the Mayans, who are spread across Central America, utilized good governance mechanisms to address the challenges to their welfare.
I will speak specifically about the Mayans of southern Belize. There's about 25,000 people in our 39 communities, very small population, but our experiences are the same. The most vulnerable, the most disadvantaged, and we can list all of that. We've also then leaned to use many instruments. Remember I spoke earlier about these global tools that have been put in place. We've used those to bring visibility, to re-inspire ourselves, to build the confidence in ourselves to take on these challenges. We've used the Constitution of Belize. We've been able to put in place the 10 points of agreement. We have a land rights decision. We have an Inter-American Commission's decision. We've used the various United Nations special procedures, mechanisms, Human Rights Council to bring visibility to our cause.
Mace pointed out that as First Peoples, the indigenous have always had rights and responsibilities.
The Maya people built tremendous architecture, Maya temples, invented the calendar, invented numbers. They were astronomers. They didn't do that being wild out there. We had a system of governance already in place. So if we understand that we've always had that, we must then be able to understand as leaders that our rights and responsibilities continue to evolve, continue to change. There are new things coming into our way of life, and for that, we need to have a good governance mechanism in place. However, the governance mechanism that we adopt or that we build on cannot be something that is the opposite to our way of life. It must be a mechanism that must be consistent with our rights and responsibilities that it seeks to protect and manage.
Ms. advised the indigenous leaders to examine where they are failing, the reasons why, and to implement the necessary measures to ensure that the well-being of indigenous peoples is secured. Minister Sidney Allicock said the Belize perspective provides a clearer understanding on traditional management.
I am very pleased that we could have this exchange because it is something that Guyana needs to partner with Belize because they have the experience. As the Mayan people, they have a governance system that is, I could say, equal to none in terms of the indigenous peoples in South America especially. And it is one thing that I've been always hoping that one day we will be able to understand what it means of traditional management and the traditional knowledge of the environment. And I always believe in the language of the laws of nature. And here it is that Dr. Pablo is bringing their story, which is very crucial or very critical in this time of the history of life here on Earth. And because of the climate change, because of development, because of the integration, and most of all, the opportunity of the indigenous peoples to be playing a greater role, or not to say playing a greater role, but to be given the opportunity to play a greater role in national development.
Meanwhile, the Tushaus also learned how cassava could be more than just a traditional food source. Mark Chatterpaul, who is currently studying overseas, examined how increased cassava production by indigenous communities can contribute to their well-being.
One of the major issues right now is finding alternative forms of, or healthier alternatives to wheat flour. I think that's a very important narrative to think about. But more importantly, how do you shift cultural perception of wheat flour, from wheat flour to other forms of flour? In Guyana alone, we have had a troubled past when it came to consuming alternative forms of wheat flour. So then how do you readdress that narrative without, ruffling a few feathers as well? But I must say that there is a huge opportunity from China, who is buying massive amounts of processed cassava to produce what is known globally as tapioca flour. And tapioca flour, which is basically cassava flour, is garnering a significant market share, primarily in the US and European markets. I think it's forward thinking, and tying into the theme of the council this year is how do we address that, and is it something worthwhile going to in the first place? My goal here is to present the approach and let the Tushaus decide if that's what they're interested in doing.
It is clear to the NTC that for them to effectively administer good governance in indigenous communities across the country, collaboration with government and other agencies is critical to achieving their mandate as outlined in the Amerindian Act. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this week of Guyana 411, where we looked at the recently concluded National Tushaus Council Conference. Have a great week ahead.